Hey everyone, welcome back. This is going to be another video where I'm going to share with you why I'm not going to purchase this palette. In this video, it's going to be on the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself Eye and Cheek palette. This is a limited edition palette that includes some eyeshadows and one cheek product, which is the center one, and it's a highlighter. When I check the Ulta website, it has a little something that says that it's excluded from coupons. So even if I wanted to purchase this palette with my 20% off, this one in particular won't be, or at least as far as I know, it won't drop down the price with the 20% just because it's probably something new, something that it's limited edition, and of course they didn't want to include it in this sale. Having said that, this is a beautiful palette that I thought it was very interesting just because it has a combination of very colorful shades that it's not something that you see from Tarte very often. When I saw these shades, I thought this would be the perfect companion to the other Tarte palettes that I have, which they're full of neutrals and not so many pop of colors. If you have the Tartlet or Tartlet in Bloom, I thought, well, these are just the perfect shades to go with those neutral and maybe matte shadows. As you can see right there, it only includes one matte shade. So that's, that should tell you that you need to get other shades from other palettes. So if you were thinking about getting this palette as a standalone kind of palette, I don't think this would be it. But the one thing that it really attracted me is not only the colors but also the texture of these eyeshadows. If you see or if you look at the pans, it looks very glittery, it looks very chunky, it looks very colorful, and I just absolutely loved looking at this palette. And some of the shades I thought they were pretty unique, so I'm going to go through each one of the shades that I thought were different and that I thought that I needed in my collection, share with you some dupes that I found in my collection or similar things. It's not a dupe, it's something very similar that I have in my collection. Now, if you look at this palette, like from this angle right there, I don't know about you, but it reminds me of the BH Cosmetics palettes. I do have quite a few of them. One of them being the Galaxy Chick palette, and that one, I feel like it has quite a few shades that are similar to this one, and the texture reminds me a lot of the Colourpop eyeshadow. So, which is something that, it doesn't usually happen. The Colourpop eyeshadows are very unique in texture, but if you look at this and you look at one of your Colourpop metallic finish eyeshadows, I feel like they look very similar. So I'm just look at this palette and I think that it's beautiful, that it's unique. But if I have to go through in my collection and find similar things, I found a small palette by Maybelline that you'll see at the end of the video that it was pretty similar to some, I think, three shades: the green, the copper, and the warm brown, by the matte eyeshadow. And also I found different ones that are in my Colourpop collection. So I'm going to start with the first thing, which I really thought that would be different, and is the highlighter in Believe. This is a cool dual chrome with a metallic finish. When I saw some people swatching this, or not swatching, but applying them to their cheeks, I thought that it was very unique and different. It is kind of unique and different, but I found something similar looking at this swatch. I have the color Rainbow from Colourpop that is pretty similar, but I don't think I would use it as a highlighter. When I look at this, I realize that this is way too cool for my warm skin tone, and I'm sure it's not going to work. So it's beautiful, but I don't think it will work for me. The next one is the color Myth, which is a warm brown with a matte finish. If you want something from the Colourpop line, you can find it in Cornelia's. You can also find this kind of shade in a lot of different Tarte palettes. I have one of these similar shade to this one in a limited edition one that came out in Christmas, I think a couple of years ago. And even if you don't own very many eyeshadow palettes, I'm sure you have something similar because this is a very common kind of color. When you look at it in the pan, it looks a little bit darker, but as you can see with the swatch, it looks, I mean, you can find different replacements in your collection. Now, this one is one of the most unique ones and one of the colors that I really was interested in getting, or that I really that I really like from this palette, and this is the color Magic. That is a warm brown with a metallic finish. You can achieve the same look if you layer the color Bandit from Colourpop and also Millionaire on top. If you don't want to do that, and if you have any kind of warm browns in your collection, which I'm sure that if you have any palettes, you probably do, you can layer that as a base and then put a little bit of gold glitter on top, and you will get the same effect. I mean, when you look at the swatches, you realize how different or similar you can get through shades that you have in your collection. Now, this one is the color Marble. This is a neutral gold with a metallic finish and is almost identical to the green color that you can find in the Maybelline Quad. I'll link it in the description box down below, and also you'll see it at the end of the video because it's a very popular one that was really hyped some time ago, and I'm sure that you already have it in your collection. So it's not that unique. And if you look at the swatch, it looks a little bit more gold than green. So when I saw it in the pan itself, I thought that it was going to be more of a vibrant green. Now, this other one is the color Trance, which is a warm taupe with a metallic finish. I have a shade like this in my Vice 2 palette, and every time I look at it, I think it's a very pretty shade, but whenever I want to use it, I find myself not liking the end result. So this is one of those shades that every time I look at a pan, I think that it's amazing, different, and unique, and then it's just not. And it's also one of the shades that you can find in those Maybelline quads that I'll show you at the end, but it's just not that different. When I look at it in the pan, I thought that it was going to be a little bit more vibrant and maybe a little bit more deep or more glittery, and it's actually not. The next one is the color Mystic, which is a cool silver with a metallic finish. This is a very beautiful shade, but it reminds me a lot of the one in the Lorac Pro palette. I think it's Slate. You know, it's that kind of a blue silver color that, you know, if you were trying to pan the Lorac Pro, it was probably a really hard color, and I think that this one is pretty similar. I mean, it may have a little bit more silver in it than the color Slate from the Lorac Pro palette, if I'm even saying the name right, because I can't remember if it's Slate, but you know, that bluish silver color that is included in the Lorac Pro palette. I mean, once again, it's beautiful in the pan, not something that I would use every single day. Now, this other one, I found it in one of my BH Cosmetics palette that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. This is from the Galaxy Chick palette, and this color right here is Dream in the Tarte palette, and this is a cool teal with a metallic finish, and you can find something very similar in the Galaxy Chick palette by BH Cosmetics. Now, if you don't have that palette from BH Cosmetics, I find that they repeat most of their shades. If it's a colorful eyeshadow palette, you'll probably see repeats in different palettes with different names and everything, but this is a color that is just beautiful to look at, but it's not the easiest to combine whenever I'm trying to create a look for my undertone, for my skin tone, and for whatever I like. So it's beautiful, it's unique, but if I'm going to be real, if I'm going to be practical, and if I'm going to be honest with myself, this is probably one of those shades that I'm not going to use very often. So I don't think, you know, it's just, it really, I really thought that it was going to be different, but it's not really that unique. Then finally, from the colors that really spoke to me from this palette is the color Crystal. This is a neutral mauve with a metallic finish. Yes, but it's still also a pink. So when I saw this swatch, I thought to myself, I have a million eyeshadows that look like that. It's just a pink with a mauve undertone. This one, it's more of a sheen and not so much with the glitter, so it's very easy to dupe. The other ones with the texture and the glitter, sometimes, you know, it's not that easy to find a glittery eyeshadow. So, of course, as I mentioned before, I would layer or I would use some Colourpop that they do have that metallic, very nice and glittery finish. But this one, it wasn't just that different. It's something that I already have and that I don't even use that often. So I don't have this many, you know, I have this color in many palettes, but I don't think that I use them enough to justify have them in my collection. So this is the quad that I mentioned from the Eye Studio by Maybelline. It has the green, the reddish copper shade right there and the darkest brown. Those three colors are very similar to three of the colors from this palette, so you can totally replace them. And if you want a little bit more glitter, you can put any kind of loose glitter on top, and I think it would look amazing. Look at the other shades. I'm just showing you some of the close-ups when I was doing the swatches of the different shades, and so you can see the texture and things that remind me of those two layer on top of the I think this is the combination that I put the brown underneath and then the glittery on top, and I created that color. So it's just to show you the kind of shades that I was going through my collection. If you have more questions, or if you actually want to see somebody use this palette, I will link Jen Love's review in the description box down below. She had to use this palette 3 different times in the same day to find a look that she liked, and you will be able to see the kind of pigmentation, because that would be a deal breaker for some people. But if you were thinking about the colors, I hope that this video gave you an idea of the different shades that are included and help you decide if this is something that you need or not. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Bye, guys.